Hey, what's up, good people? It's Jay Ray, the co host of Q Points, and I wanted to come to you because there are two really important ways that you can support our show. One is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. The other thing that you can do is you can visit us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on Podchaser, and you can leave us a star rating. Please rate us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points. And on Apple Podcasts and on Podchaser, you can actually leave us a written review. It's not required, but it really does help to spread the word about the show, and it helps people to discover it as they're looking for new podcasts to listen to. We're always appreciative of you supporting Q Points. We thank you so much for all that you've done for us so far, and enjoy the show.
Greetings and welcome back to Q Points, dropping the needle on Black music history. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. What's happening, folks?
Listen, it's your favorite award-winning, award-nominated.
You know what?
Listen,
Let's speak it
I'm
into
just
the
going to keep speaking
future.
it into
That's
existence.
right.
Award-winning podcast, Q Points, and we are very happy to be back with you to discuss. Well, first of all, if you're looking and you're figuring out, if you're watching us and you're trying to figure out what in the um naughty by nature is going on with Sir Daniel and his outfit tonight, it all will be explained. It's all part of the major topic tonight. But first, now I need to ask how my homeboy is doing. J Ray, what's the word? How you feeling?
I am feeling great. We're going to have a lot of fun. I think with this topic, we are going to talk about a very specific period of time in hip hop
Totally.
history, and looking forward to that. And it has been a glorious week. We launched our official newsletter slash magazine this week, which
Yep.
looks hot. Y'all got to get on it.
Beautiful.
So feeling really good, Sir Daniel. How you feeling?
I am absolutely wonderful. It's fake spring here in Atlanta. Um, but I'm not, breaking out any shorts or anything like that. Georgia has proven that we can have a blizzard in the middle of March, and it's not March yet. So I'm just saying. But other than that, I'm awesome. J Ray, let's remind the folks how they can keep up with us. Like you said, we have our wonderful newsletter,
We
but
do.
let them know how they can subscribe and get that wonderful newsletter.
Absolutely. So, by the way, we're having fake spring too. The air conditioning is on in this room right now. That is
What?
how warm outside it is today. So
Mm.
anyway, yes. So y'all can sign up for the newsletter by you can certainly go to our website. It'll pop up on the screen, or you could just go ahead and click the drop down for the newsletter, but also visit qpnt.net/newsletter and you can join. You have to stay in touch with all things Q Points. So the way to do that is definitely to subscribe. You can visit our website as well, hit the subscribe button, and you can join. You should definitely become an Insider Max because it just makes sense. You get access to everything, all of the back behind the scenes stuff. You get to watch all of our However Commas. We had a super fun However Comma this week.
Oh my
We,
God.
let's just say, we played a game called What's in Teddy's Man Purse. And y'all need to see that.
Y'all, listen, y'all showed out. And when I tell you that, I was holding my sides. It was so fun. It was
It
so much fun. We're definitely doing that. You need to tune in every Monday night when we do However Comma.
Mhm.
I like to say a shout out to Harold Pride. Harold Pride is in the building.
What's up,
And
Harold?
and I see Mark McPherson is on the check-in.
What's up,
So
Mark?
our peoples are checking in, and we're so glad to see you. J Ray, you know, we're into like what 3 weeks out from the Grammys,
Is it?
and
No, it's about 3 weeks. Yeah.
we're about 3 weeks out for the Grammys, and Harry Styles is the gift that keeps on giving. He is back in the news, not here in the States, but for something that happened overseas.
So Harry Styles won, won an award at the Brit Awards,
Mm-hmm.
and he won the best artist in the best pop R&B category.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to
Yeah.
we need to one, this category is weirdly titled. So here's what happened. The Brit Awards, apparently, because I had to look this up, I'm like, why is this even a category? It doesn't seem to make sense. So the Brit Awards used to have a category up until about 2006 called a Best Pop. It was the Best Pop artist
Mm-hmm.
winner, and at some point they retired that award, bought it back in 2021 and called it Best Pop R&B. So in the history of the winners of this award are mostly boy bands and
Mm.
just like random pop artists. So last year was Dua Lipa, this year is Harry Styles. It just don't make no sense. Brit Awards, what y'all doing? What is the best pop R&B? And y'all have some of the best R&B artists in the
So
world.
so that's what made the article jump out at me, because at first I was gonna be like, you know what, I'm paying it. Who, we don't want to mention give Harry Styles too much. Let's move on from him. However, but just like you said, there was a period. There's still, and I'm sure there's still great music, but like British soul, we got to talk about the run that British soul and the chokehold that they had on our lives. I'm talking about Misha Paris,
Mhm.
um, Soul to Soul,
Loose ends.
Loose Ends. The list goes on and on, and I'm just like, what happened? What happened? I really want to know from our British brothers and sisters what happened, and why is R&B, the label of R&B, being bastardized the way it is in these award shows. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a whole lot, and I'm just like, okay, enough. Harry, go on, eat your, you should have sat there and ate your food. And it's really not his fault. He's
Mm-mm.
just the name that just keeps coming up, and we're just like, what is it, y'all? What's going on over there?
Could I and I want to point out, because like I said, the award came back in 2021, so it was first presented in 2022. Here are the
Mm-hmm.
nominees that have come up for best British pop R&B act, which is
Okay.
such a weird thing. uh Adele, Joy Crooks, Griff, Ed Sheeran, and Dua Lipa won last year, so she was nominated. This year was Cat Burns. I have to look up who Cat Burns is. Charlie XCX, Dua Lipa again, Sam Smith, and then of course the winner is Harry Styles. So I just don't understand this category. I don't. I don't get it.
Listen, I thought R&B stood for real black, but that's just, the R&B part is missing. We got the pop covered, but the R&B part seems to be a little scarce.
Yes.
But one person that is really coming for their things, is coming for all of the things that are due to him, is Common, who
Yes.
Common, for all intents and purposes, it's been a while since Common has like really gave us a full on out hip hop album in some years now, if I'm not mistaken. But Common is putting in work in all the arenas. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about television, the movies, and of course, what else? Television, movies, and
Stage.
we're look stage,
Yep.
the Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's well on his way to becoming an EGOT. You just brought this to my attention.
Yes, Common is right there. EGOT, he is so close to an EGOT. So we wanted to just show Common some love. So his most recent, so he's currently on Broadway, and his play, which is called Between Riverside and Crazy. If any of y'all have checked it out, let us know. Me and mom might have to make a trip up. It's been extended. So
Mm.
it just raised the eyebrow of like, oh, Common is really coming for his EGOT. So the only remaining award Common has left is a Tony. So it looks like he's really leaned in to the stage. And I really appreciate that. I love a focus. I love an artist who's like, listen, I'm coming for my things, and Common is definitely there. So to that point, so his last and I like this record, A Beautiful Revolution. He did a 1 and 2 over the he did a 1 over the pandemic. I like that
Okay.
joint a lot. The album
Hmm.
cover to that was so sick. Um but they were hip hop joints, real dope. At least part one. I'm not as familiar with part two, which came out in 2021. But Common is on his way to an EGOT, and we wanted to show Common some love and congratulations on having Between Riverside and Crazy extended on Broadway. That is a big deal because they will like it's time. The show's closing and not this show. So that's good.
Awesome. So we're gonna keep a lookout for Common. And again, back to this cycling back to the Grammys one more time. This clip came up on my timeline and I immediately hit J Ray. I was like, you gotta see this. So there really apparently Scarface has his own podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and he was having a conversation with his old bandmate Willie D of the Ghetto Boys. And to say there was a little tension, there was a little panini pressing going on, is to say the least. But there was a point in the conversation where Willie D brings up the point that nobody reached out to him to be on the Grammys to perform, and because the song that Scarface performed his part from was "My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me,"
Yep.
and Scarface made a really great point. Scarface was like, "Look, they reached out to me because I'm Scarface. I'm an artist on my own."
Mm-hmm.
And they had the discussion. They both agreed, yes, you are definitely a bona fide solo artist. We've all created our own lanes as solo artists. We also did this amazing, iconic, legendary work as the Ghetto Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, our most iconic song is "My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me." And so Willie D's contention is that the because Scarface performed his verse, or part of his verse from "My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me," he said Willie D feels like, well, that's a Ghetto Boys song.
Yep.
That's a Ghetto Boys song.
Yeah.
But they didn't say anything to me. So he had some contention with that. And Scarface was like, hey, that don't have nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that the producers reached out for. But he says, don't ever get it. He was like, don't ever get it twisted. I don't need to do that song ever again. I've got my own catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw both sides of this argument.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really an argument because you could tell Willie D, to me, Willie D looked like he was approaching it. He was trying to figure out how to approach it without creating some type of argument with Scarface. But Scarface was like, I really don't even appreciate you trying to press me on my show about this.
Yeah. So I liked this conversation because it did show two grown black men having a difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to I want to send Willie D some love because there were a couple of times when I was listening to this, like Scarface is really digging in here, and Willie was really not trying to take it, where sometimes if you get in your feelings about stuff, you can let it go there. So I liked the fact liked the fact that they had the conversation, because I thought about that when Scarface walked on stage. I was like, where's Willie D? Because I heard the track for My Mom's Playing
My
Tricks on Me
mom's playing
begin, I
tricks
was
on me.
like, oh my God. And the Scarface came out, and my immediate first thought was, where's Willie D? I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure he's probably like, why am I not present? Because he is very visible, right? Um, Now I will say I can see both sides as well. So, okay,
Yeah.
so the podcast, by the way, it's Ghetto Boys Reloaded. So it is Willie and Scarface together. Willie actually is kind of a podcast legend. He had a podcast a couple of years ago called Willie D Live. And it became a bit of a thing. And he started a YouTube channel. So Willie D is kind of like really dug in on the podcasting thing for a while. So he's been in that space. And what was interesting is Willie was like, when you left, and he was like, well, what are you going to do this weekend? He was like, oh, I'm going to, Scarface was like, oh, I'm going to LA to do this Grammys thing. And
Mm-hmm.
Willie was like, okay, well, cool. Not thinking nothing of it. He was like, you Scarface, you got a huge catalog. You probably are not going to
Right.
do a Ghetto
My
Boy
mom's playing
song.
tricks. Right.
And turns out that's what happened. And so I could see how Willie was like, eh. And he did ask the question, did you think when they said, because Scarface was like, I didn't know what song they was going, he was like, I didn't know what song I was going to do. And when I
Mm-hmm.
got there, they was like, you're going to do Mind's Playing Tricks on Me. And he was like, all right, cool. And then Willie was like, well, did you think to even just pick up the phone to say,
Right.
yo, I just saw you. They are gonna
Mm-hmm.
have me do My Mom's Playing Tricks on Me on stage. You
Right.
good? You know what I'm saying?
But
Because
Scarface made a very great point
mhm,
to that particular question.
mhm. And I think they both made solid points. And they got to the end. What was hilarious is, look, Scarface was like, look, listen, I won't do that song if you're not present. I won't do it on my shows. I won't do that song or whatever. And I just was like, hey, you got two grown men. This could have gone left.
Yeah. Yeah.
This could have gone left. And people did pick up on the tension.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, they've played into it too, right? This is getting them views on their
Absolutely.
podcast. But what's beautiful is ultimately they are okay. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But it did bring up, and maybe I'm just overly sensitive about stuff like that, but it did bring up the fact of, hey, when you are in partnership with someone, and especially music, right? And you're
Mm-hmm.
being asked to do something on behalf of,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? How, what do you do?
Protocol.
Yeah,
What is
what's the
that
protocol?
conversation? Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm
And
saying?
you're absolutely right. And shout out to Wani Lovett is in the building. What's up,
Mm-hmm.
Wani? She makes a wonderful point. She says also Willie D is somewhat of a political activist and he is controversial. So they could have been biased in their selection,
Mm-hmm.
which is a dope point.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been part of the reason why they only went with Scarface. But to your point, J. Ray, I love the fact that other, especially younger black men, can watch these quote unquote OGs
Mm-hmm.
have a disagreement, be in and show that yes, I was in my feelings. They may not say it outright, but
Right.
clearly they're displaying I was in my feelings about this. I felt left out. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like you didn't consider me or my feelings in this situation. And the most important part is that they young black men can see these two OGs agree to disagree,
Yep.
have their argument live, have their argument recorded on camera, and then but come to a solution that doesn't require anybody to throw hands, doesn't require anybody to pull guns, but shows that things can be resolved if you
Mm-hmm.
just talk about it and just say, hey, please consider me next time. Think about me if something like this comes up.
Yep.
And yeah, because Scarface is like, so yeah, I performed My Mom's Playing Tricks on Me without you. But
And you've
haven't
done
you
this.
had
Yeah.
you've done the same thing too. You have license to do so. You
Right.
have a part in that iconic song, so you could do that anywhere you go. So there's no real argument about who should be performing the song because we both use that song. So it was just a really interesting and gratifying moment in hip hop to
Agreed.
see the inner workings of a group, because all we see most of the time are the headlines about, such and such is not speaking to such and such anymore. They refuse to go on stage together, all kinds of things. We've seen it played out so many times, but I like to see this behind the scenes kind of look, and to see people work things out, and again model for the community at large on how you can resolve conflict with just speaking and using your words. So shout out to Willie D and Scarface.
And one interesting, this is an aside, but I also found it interesting listening to them because just having them talk through like the group dynamic, right? Since Bushwick
Mm-hmm.
Bills passed on, right? He was like, well, the
Right.
reality is me and you are the ghetto boys at this point. He was like, so when we're talking about Bill, he's obviously, he's passed on, former member of the Ghetto
Mm-hmm.
Boys, but for all intents and purposes, we are the Ghetto Boys at this point, right? It's just me and you. But it was interesting having Scarface even reflect, because Willie D had brought up, like, remember when we did the so and so record and it was just me and you? And Scarface was like, bruh, I don't even remember them records. Like, it's crazy. He was like, Willie, I literally forgot. He was like, I do not remember them records. And we often, I think of Prince when Questlove was like, oh my God, that guitar solo and Darling Nikki. He was like, I don't know how to play that. Like, I don't remember how that goes.
Right.
So if you asked me to play it, I couldn't play it. I would have to listen to it. And it was hearing Scarface do the same thing, like, Willie, you just jogged a memory for me because I literally forgot about those records. They've
And
done
that's something
so much stuff.
you just done so much music that you can't even remember all the stuff.
Yeah.
And here's another aside. Speaking of Prince, you just brought this up. I saw a clip of DJ City. They have a podcast, and they were sitting talking with DJ Kiss, who is a woman out of New York. She was retelling a story of an evening where she was booked to DJ a date for Prince. Not a party, not an event, a date. She shows up and she's like, "Where is everybody else?" Oh no, they're like, "No, Prince and his lady are arriving. They want you to play music for them the whole
Oh
evening."
my
She's like,
God.
but the interesting part, the funniest part is she says that the her instructions were you can play anything but Prince songs.
Right. Makes perfect
So
sense.
it does, but she played something Prince adjacent. She was like, "I'm gonna play something Prince adjacent," and she said she played Apollonia Six's Blue Limousine.
Oh, yeah.
And she says that Prince, she said the curtain pulls, because apparently she's behind the curtain, so she can't
Right.
even witness what's going on. Prince comes from behind the curtains and says, Jesse stole my bass line from that song. And she was like, "Oh, okay."
I can see him being like real Butch Queen with
Being
it.
like, Jesse stole stole that bass line from me. And I thought that was the most hilarious thing you could. We speaking of Jesse Johnson, of course,
Yes.
who was part of the in the mix back in the
Yeah.
day, part of the revolution. And yeah, I just thought that was such a beautiful and funny story. I would have, if
Can
only.
you imagine if you was their DJ? I know you would be texting right now like, oh my God, Prince just came and said.
Prince is mad at me. He's still salty about Jesse Johnson, child. But I would live. I would live.
You
Just to
would be
be.
living.
If Prince cut his eyes at me, I would. That would be just the best feeling ever. But we also wanted tonight. We want to give this episode. We would like to offer condolences to the family and say rest in peace to Raquel Welch.
Yes.
Raquel Welch was clearly a beautiful, gorgeous woman.
Mhm.
She was iconic. Just for she made a lot of different movies back in the day, but she is well known for having the first interracial sex scene in a movie in
Mm-hmm.
1969 in a movie called 100 Guns. Is that it?
100 rifles, I believe.
100 Rifles.
Mm-hmm.
And her co-star that she broke this interracial sex cherry with was none other than Mr. Football activist himself, Jim Brown.
Mr.
So
Jim Brown.
imagine that is your fresh in the biz, and it was, they called it interracial because Raquel Welch was clearly a Bolivian woman. She is
Mm-hmm.
South American. She's, but in Hollywood, of course,
Right.
because I guess she's interracial, she's mixed with white and Bolivian. They were trying to focus on her being white. She's just exotic looking, and
Right.
so when this happened, it was controversial because it's an interracial sex scene, and it was kind of risque is what is risque for a sex scene for 1969. They were doing all the things in 69.
Absolutely.
Get it?
So, yeah, if you look up this particular scene, it is you get a there's a lot of booties. So Raquel Welch is showing her booty. You kind of get who else? Burt Reynolds is in it. You don't get
Mm-hmm.
to see, he's naked, but you don't get to see nothing. But then they cut to like the Jim Brown and Raquel Welch. But yes, rest in peace to Miss Welch. She was one of those figures, in particular, when we were growing up, that was kind of always on TV because she would be guest
Mm-hmm.
starring on something. This was kind of past the point of her big screen career, but she was definitely very visible on game shows and on television. It was just one of
Variety
those
shows.
variety shows, absolutely, and she was one of those figures that we grew up seeing. So absolutely rest in peace. And yeah, to Raquel Welch. Listen, Sir
So
Daniel, this is a thing that we have to go through at our big ages.
at our big ages, we're seeing a lot of our icons
Mm-hmm.
from music to the big screen walking away or leaving us as they get older. It's funny. Last week, we when we did our show honoring Spike Lee and his contributions to hip hop, we at the very end we unlocked a memory. We were like, "Oh, wait a minute, we almost forgot." Spike Lee gave Queen Latifah her first big movie role in Jungle Fever
Yep.
as the sassy waitress at the soul food restaurant that she couldn't believe that Wesley Snipes brought her stringy white ass up in here, that kind, that movie. And so we, in keeping in that line, we were like, Queen Latifah really has did a lot in her music career before truly blowing up as a Hollywood power actress.
Mm-hmm.
And we were thinking about the compilation album Roll with the Flavor, and that is the topic for this particular podcast. And we're talking about a time, 1993. Queen Latifah, like we said, has started in living single. By this
Mm-hmm.
time, she's getting more movie roles under her belt, but she's also gone on to be a bona fide television star.
Mm-hmm.
So she's on Living Single, and but she's also still got her foot in the music business as a label owner
Mm-hmm.
and an executive producer. And so what she and her partner Shakim did, of course, was come up with a compilation album called Roll with the Flavor, and it featured a lot of up and coming hip hop stars, some people who were already hip hop
Mm-hmm.
stars, and a gem of an R&B group that we're going to discuss even further.
Right.
But before we get into that, it is the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing hip hop has always been innovative in how it presents its artists. We were always creating platforms for artists to be heard. And in the early days, cassettes were floating around. So we had the early stages of mixtapes, even back in the 70s and early 80s. But then when hip hop started getting some more attention from the record labels, and they had like segments on radio, FM radio, not just AM, they
Right.
were on FM radio at some very marketable time slots. Then we have record labels approaching certain people to create compilation albums.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very important that before we discuss Roll with the Flavor, we discuss some compilation, hip hop compilation albums that really changed the direction of hip hop and how we and giving hip hop artists different platforms. So, for those that are watching the show, I got these stacks of albums behind me. And so I went digging and I pulled up this Tommy Boy compilation called Power Jam 85. And there it's got a full list of rap groups that a lot of people probably don't remember, but there's a female rap group on here called Sweet Trio, which was their DJ was our friend DJ Jazzy Joyce.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Power Jam 85. That was a Tommy Boy compilation. And Tommy Boy was like a early rap hip hop label.
Yes.
Tommy Boy was on the hip hop scene like big time. I have to give mention to this man right here,
Mm-hmm.
Herbie Lovebug. On the cover, Herbie Lovebug and his brother Stevie O, Herbie's Machine, the house that hip hop built, or the house that rap built. On this are classics from Antoinette.
That was such a
Um,
banger.
such a banger. I Got an Attitude, which was the record that sparked one of the more infamous hip hop battles
Yep.
ever between female MCs. And then, of course, we've got the Salt and Pepper. This was the first compilation that Push It actually appears on, the Push It remix.
Got it.
So, and the underground cut I Am Down from Salt and Pepper. And we also had the Fabulous 2, the Mau Mau Clan Overlords. So Herbie, of course, like we always credited Herbie with, is one of the forefathers of creating rap crews. And before your Sean Diddy Combs created Bad Boy and things like that, and the rap label family.
Yes.
So that's Herbie's Machine, the house that rap built. Another one that I want to give homage to is the Uptown is Kicking It album,
Mm-hmm.
which features is a brainchild of one Andre Harrell, rest in peace.
Legend.
Legendary Andre Harrell, who used to be in a rap group
He did. Yep.
called what was their names? The
It was two of them.
Dr. Jekyll and was
Mr.
it Dr.
Hyde.
Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? I believe that's it. Yeah. So Andre Harrell. So on this particular album, you have Heavy D and the Boys, who were, of course, by far the biggest breakout group off of this label and off of this compilation. Finesse and Sinquist made their mark as their premier female rap group on the Uptown label. We have Groove Be Chill, who were
Yep.
famously featured in House Party
Yep.
as the brothers that dueled Kid and Play in House Party for the dance battle.
Yep.
And a funny thing, Marley Marl, who is mostly known as a Juice Crew affiliate, the producer that is responsible for Roxanne Shante and
Big Daddy
a lot of the
Kane.
Juice, Big Daddy Kane, the whole Juice Crew. He was also featured. He had quite a relationship with this particular group of people, and it kind of overlapped. So
Mm-hmm.
Marley Marl is actually featured on this album as a producer for the Marley Scratch, which is no, that's on the B side of Bass Game on Finesse and Sinquist's 12-inch. Oh, it's called He Cuts So Fresh. So that was his cut on here. So shout out to the late Andre Harrell for creating that hip hop compilation. And then one of my personal favorites is the First Priority Music Family
Mm-hmm.
Basement Flavors compilation.
I
Of
remember when you
course.
found that.
Oh yeah. We weren't no, we weren't in Detroit, were we? No,
I
I
don't know
found
if.
the cool DJ Red Alert in
Yeah.
Detroit. But it may have been here. I can't remember. But this features, of course, Audio 2,
Mm-hmm.
Positive K, who went on to do I Got a Man,
Mm-hmm.
which, is iconic. MC Light, of course. But I think my favorite standout from this particular album is, of course, Toronto's own Bad Gia, Mishi Me, and LA Love with their two songs on here. So we have a precedent of rap music compilations, hip hop has always been about creating platforms for their artists, and the best way to do that is to create a compilation album, because you never know who's gonna pop, right? And
Absolutely.
I do have to give a shout out to Mr. Magic, as well as Cool DJ Red Alert, because they were the real predecessors of mixtapes, because they were approached by Next Plateau and Profile Records to have their own compilation albums of some huge hip hop hits. So that was pretty huge for a DJ. If a DJ put the stamp on your record, that helped propel your record to even higher heights, because it was featured on their compilation album. So, in keeping with that, like I said at the top, we are honoring or we are discussing Roll with the Flavor.
We are discussing it.
It is, so I found this at one of the record shows that comes to Atlanta. And it was like I was flipping through this guy's collection and I saw this and I was like immediately just yanked it and was like, mine,
Right.
gotta have it. Even though, and J Ray and I are gonna talk about like the amount of let's say the amount of popular hits that came off of this compilation album is
Well,
kind of sparse.
it's only really one. And
It's like, I
that
think it's a
one isn't
gentle
even
word.
that one isn't even reflective of this album. So it's very interesting.
Very
Um
interesting.
but I do want to, as we lead into this, I do think it's important that we acknowledge that, to your point about discussing compilation albums, that this is kind of Flavor Unit 2.0, in that there was a Flavor Unit compilation in 1990 that was
Correct.
produced by 45 King. Now, what I don't know, and maybe you know the answer to this, I don't know if Flavor Unit was adopted as kind of like a extension of what 45 King was doing, because I think 45 King was just doing something he was calling like the Flavor Unit as kind of like a title. I don't know if it was
Mhm.
considered a crew, but there is kind of a dope compilation record which all of you can stream. So if you sign up for our newsletter, we're going to include the stream so that y'all can listen to it. But it includes a singing Queen Latifah. She's doing like a reggae sing song thing, crazy dope, over this 45 King beat. But you have folks like Lakem Shabazz on here, and the one crossover that are on the only two people that are on both Flavor Unit records are Queen Latifah and Apache.
Apache.
Yeah. So this is interesting because now, by the time we get to 1993, Flavor Unit has signed a distribution deal with Epic,
Uh-huh.
and they like, we going to do a label. And so really quickly you get D Nice on
Uh-huh.
here, who's already a he's already a hip hop star.
Yes.
So he's on here, and Nikki D, we know Queen Latifah, we know Nikki, we know Apache, we know Freddie Fox.
And at this time, we also know Naughty by Nature.
Oh yeah, that's right. Naughty by Nature is on this. Yes. It's so interesting
Naughty
that they're
by
down at
Nature
the
is on
end.
here.
Yeah. So this is an
It's,
interesting moment.
and so what Latifah and Shakim and Charm Warren Celestine were also doing was signing new acts
Mm-hmm.
and giving them the opportunity, to shine. Now, there's a couple people. Now, Groove Garden, I was hearing about Groove Garden prior to this.
Me
I
too.
think Groove Garden may have been on Tommy
Tommy
Boy
Boy.
prior to that.
Yep.
And so I think this may have been the era where there was a separation, a severing of the relationship between like Queen Latifah and Tommy
Tommy
Boy
Boy.
at that time.
Yep.
So there was that overlap into Epic Records before Queen Latifah went to Motown.
Mm-hmm.
And so because right after this came the Black Rain project,
Correct.
which was definitely released on Motown.
Right.
And let's stay on Queen Latifah for a second. Like Queen Latifah is just, as you mentioned, she on Mark the 45 Kings compilation, she's like just doing her thing. She's already a badass on the mic. We
Mm-hmm.
know she can sing, we know she can rhyme. And so now we see Queen Latifah doing this major pivot, as I mentioned earlier, into not only a bona fide television and movie star actress, but she's also flexing her businesswoman savvy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Khadijah is not just Khadijah is what made Khadijah so real is that Khadijah was very much Queen Latifah. You know,
Absolutely.
they were
Yeah.
pretty much the same person running Flavor magazine. You know,
Right. They literally so even when you look at the Roll with the Flavor video, I'm like, oh, that's
hmm
just Khadijah, right? You know what I'm saying? But it's Queen. So when we were able to accept Khadijah as who she was because we knew who Queen Latifah was as both an MC connected to hip hop as well as a woman who was into basketball, a woman who rode motorcycles, right? A businesswoman. And
yes,
so, yes, so we were able to see this kind of emerge. And I think what's most interesting for me about this compilation is so the songs I liked at the time, I still like.
hmm
The songs I didn't like, I really don't like now. Like
yeah,
they literally are like, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really bad now.
this is terrible. Yeah,
Right. Because it was terrible then and it's terrible. It's like it was terrible then and now it's like, oh, that's
yeah,
cringeworthy terrible now.
yeah.
Um, but I what's interesting is when I listen back to this, I'm like, child, if they had shaved this down to like 6 joints, this joint might have popped. Like,
Matter honestly speaking, um, I think to your point, if we look at Queen Latifah's joint on here, I really enjoy Nikki D's joint,
mhm,
Freak Out, as well as LaShawn featuring C of the Black Market and her song Gimme Head. So which was dope and funny at the same time because that's definitely LaShawn's lane.
yeah.
Is giving you hard rhymes, but a wedge of comedy to go with it. And this, when I think of this album in this era, J Ray, don't you think of the Gangsta Bitch era?
This is this is the epitome of the
Of
gangsta bitch era because you are going through and listening to the rhymes on this and you're like, oh,
y'all are
ladies.
the late. It's like the ladies were making an extra effort to be extra hard on this, even on their appearance. Apache really struck a nerve and struck a chord with a lot of young ladies about creating this and I'm paying homage, through this outfit tonight with my black vest on over my t-shirt and my black bandana because this is I'm giving you a little Newark, New Jersey, New York kind of flavor tonight with this particular ensemble because it reminded me of how everybody went for this like really this maintenance man chic, if I could call it. We were all J Ray. We were all wearing these oversized workman jackets, these workman boots. Timberlands, of course, was the go-to, but we
Right.
were all wearing these oversized clothing. We were dicky down, like oversized dicky outfits, and let's not even talk about the Carhartt couture.
Right.
Carhartt, if you didn't have the little golden Carhartt emblem on the side of your vest or whatever, it wasn't legit. But I think so. Back to Apache. Apache with his song "Gangsta Bitch." I don't know. It was so influential to see all these young ladies, throwing on head rags and toughening up, wearing the gear. It changed. If you look at it, Escape. Look at
Mm-hmm.
Escape's first album
Yeah.
cover. All of them are baggy pants, tight shirt with a flowing plaid shirt, flannel
Yep.
shirt. They've got the bandanas, the lokes on. That was such a time. What a time to be alive. The young ladies were really going for that look, giving that harder image, and it was. What did you think of that time, Jerry?
It upon reflection, it was cringe. So,
Hmm.
in preparation for this show, I decided to revisit music videos from that era. And the last video I decided to catch up with is LaShawn. So I decided to play some LaShawn and see what she was doing in her music video that was supposed to signal her
The
album, which got shelved.
album.
This was
Hmm.
also the weird period where an album was supposed to come and it never came, or they just got shelved altogether and it was like it just never dropped. Like
Because she was on Tommy Boy. She was on
she was on
Tommy
Tommy
Boy
Boy
as
too.
well.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah, it was a lot of Tommy Boy. God bless him.
Yep,
So
I got that back here somewhere.
yeah, so I revisited that video and I thought to myself, why I don't know why you lifting weights in this video. I don't know why this is happening. It was almost like take um masculinity and like turn it up to like 20. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't know why y'all want it. Why are y'all doing this? It
I
and but if we knew, but this was the signal, right? This was the time. Remember, we talk about it. We talked about it when we talked about our MC Light show,
hmm
where there and the Yo-Yo show, where it was that period of time where it was in like 91, where all the women like all of a sudden they got their hair permed,
hmm
they had full beats, and they dancing in the videos. And then by like 93, it was, remember Yo-Yo, but that black pearl shit was whack
Right, exactly.
because you
Because
couldn't do that.
the Chronic dropped, right?
Exactly.
The Chronic dropped, and by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and the whole Dog Pound, and completely changed the landscape of what everybody was grooving to, right? And the imagery took over the whole industry. Like I said, you had people on the East Coast dressing like lokesters from the West
Yep.
Coast. And so if the women want to be taken seriously now, because the men are just completely dogging them out, the women are like, oh no, we've got to really, to get your attention, I'm going to have to put these titties behind this plaid shirt. I still got them, but
This
I'm going to put
extra,
them
extra, extra large shirts.
this extra large shirt. I'm going to put on this bandana. I'm going to walk around with a machete, and which is a pretty accessory if you think about it. It's very, a machete goes with everything, J
um,
Ray. It goes with everything. And so it was just like, in order to counter the narrative of bitches ain't shit, they had to really come harder with their imagery and their rhymes. And it's like, well, if the fellas are gonna get ridiculous, I can get like even dumber with these rhymes and the way that we're gonna portray ourselves, and we're just gonna have a complete um I guess machete fest on these mics and these images that are going out. And for all intents and purposes, that ruled the airways. We ended up with a person like Boss.
We ended up
And
with Boss in this era. Yes.
Boss is one of those moments in hip hop history where we all found out record labels created Boss.
Yeah.
Like, she's the woman herself, Lachelle, I believe is her name. The woman herself, talented MC, clearly. She had the chops because that record sold like crazy. But
Yeah.
the industry said, oh, well, this is what's selling. People are into
So
gangster shit.
you need a Uzi.
I need you to be, I don't need you wearing makeup. I need you to pull the scully all down on your head, put on these lokes. We barely gonna know what you look like. And we want you to just, come out with the most bizarre, prison prison reform rhymes that you can ever come up with. And we ate it up. We ate that up. And she'll tell you to this day, like, yeah, that was all made up. That whole image, all of that was just completely fabricated and made up.
Yeah, and I so this particular compilation. Okay, so I'm going to be very, very honest. I don't like this record. I didn't like this record when it came out either. Like, it was one of those records where the people who were good were good. I was like, oh, I liked you before you was on here, so you good on here. Queen Latifah's "Bring the Flavor" lies dope. Like, it's still dope. I listened to it. I'm like, oh. There are a couple of lines where I'm like, I don't like that line, but I like this song. The Crew record, the Flavor Unit MCs record, classic record. You got Black Sheep at the end. If you got a 9 and she got a 9,
he got a
9,
you got a 9.
And if you got a 9, if I got mine, then I got mine. And everybody had 9s, but they had like the number 9. It was like making fun of the, the moment in hip hop that we were in, where they were making fun of like everybody's got a gun now. So we're gonna have the number 9, and do this hot ending. So that posse cut, dope. D-Nice's joint, dope. Can we take a pause for, and we've talked about D-Nice several times on this show, how D-Nice has been in so many pivotal eras of hip hop, just like a person who's always on the vanguard. He's either a DJ or he's an MC or he's a producer. Many times he's all three. You know what I'm saying? His joint, dope. The LaShawn joint we talked about, dope.
Yeah.
So the Nikki D joint, lyrically, it's dope. There's a weird domestic violence thing leading into that song, which I forgot about. And I had my headphones on and I was like, oh my God, is he smacking her?
Yeah. It's very jarring, right?
Right.
Like you said, when you hear it in your headphones or you hear it in your ears, it's a very jarring moment. And it's supposed to be like that. But when it came time for the video, they bypassed that for a narrative of a woman, Nikki D, at what appears to be a bachelorette party with her homegirls, and they're in a bar, and this man comes in who we assume is Nikki D's love interest or partner at the time, and she just looks at him and says like, "Don't even trip," and she puts her hands on her waist to indicate that she's got a 9. She's got a gun. She got that heat on her, and so the whole song is really a woman's anthem, a woman's take back your power. What was that movie that Jennifer Lopez was in? Enough. It was like Enough on wax, Enough on steroids, and Burning Bad. Let's not forget Burning Bad.
Oh, so yeah, with Farrah Fawcett.
You put Burning Bad and Enough on a rap tune with Nikki D,
you get freak out.
And it was good to see like Queen Latifah stood by her side in the video, and again the images were soft but hard.
Yeah,
the women in the video, they were all soft but hard because everybody still had on like these April Walker suits, right? April Walker is a dope. We talked about April.
We talked about Walker wear. Yeah, we absolutely did.
Walker wear in our fashion and hip hop segment, and they were wearing that, which I thought was a dope element to include a black woman fashion designer in the video. But yeah, it was just a weird time of them trying to strike this balance of, I'm a woman and I want to be beautiful, but I'm also hard. So that was one of the standout tracks for sure on this album.
Yeah. Definitely, absolutely. So I have a solid 5. I will say one of the worst rap songs that I've ever heard is on this album. And I don't know how it made the cut. I don't know who they knew, but let me see who's on the Brooklyn Assault team. Do we know who these rappers are? There's a lot of them. There's a bunch of them.
That was the thing.
That was the thing. So D Creator, Third Rail, Art Ride, Gap the Ripper, and Ike Capone. I'm sure you brothers are amazing. But On the Bone Again is one of the worst songs I have ever heard. And it's like, so if we take LaShawn's Give Me Head
Mm-hmm.
and made a bad version, this is that song from a
Yeah,
dude's perspective.
it was missing any kind of humor.
Right.
Like LaShawn's song with, and her song is with C of the Black Market. Wait,
Right. Sea of the Black
well,
Market.
C
Yeah,
of the
and they were
Black
supposed to
Market,
have a joint out and it never came.
and it never came. So you can see that it could be done. There could be some humor involved in it. But to your point, J Ray, there was like no humor involved. And I think, that was a choice. A lot of rappers felt like they couldn't be taken seriously if there was any humor or anything associated with their rhymes. Even Naughty by Nature, if we look at Naughty by Nature and some of their grittiest raps and some of their, you know, Tretch could make you laugh with his metaphors. Like
Absolutely.
he could be talking about I hang you like it's colder than a witch's titty. They and his wordplay, but there was some humor, there was some levity, but they also knew how to switch it up to make people want to dance and party.
Yeah.
And I think that was the reason why you never hear about a Brooklyn Assault team today, but you still know who Naughty by Nature is, because Naughty by Nature was able to strike that balance.
Yeah. This so February 16th this record came out. So we are recording February 16th, 1993, and we were recording this on February 16th, 2023.
Yeah.
And I do look at this record as kind of a time capsule for what was happening and the crossroads that New York was in at the time. This is before Nas, hit the scene. This is before Jay. This is before Biggie. New York is in this weird time because the West Coast has emerged. The Chronic has already been released, right? Snoop's album is on the way. It might have actually come out by the time this came
I
out.
think it was already out by now. Yeah.
Yeah. So New York and Jersey are in this weird time. And I think this record kind of encapsulates the growing pains that existed in New York at the time. But so there's an interesting figure that's on this album that we forget that this person started as a rapper.
Absolutely. None other than Mr. Love and Hip Hop himself, Benzino.
Yep. He was Ray Dog back then.
He was Ray Dog, but a lot of people don't realize. So the Source magazine, which was considered by myself included to be like the hip hop Bible of magazines, was ran in conjunction with Benzino. Benzino was on that staff. Benzino was an owner of the Source magazine and even took it to the level of creating the Source Awards.
Yeah.
He's credited as a producer on the Source Awards show that, of course, well, we saw how that turned out and the things that came out from that fateful night. Right. But we forget that Benzino had this moment as an MC out of Boston with the almighty RS Soul crew. Yeah. And here we are in 2023. We're not playing any Benzino records. However, we are rocking to his daughter, Coily Ray.
Yeah.
Coily Ray, who has a huge song right now. It's a huge TikTok hit. Yeah. It's a huge record in the dance club. So it's amazing the seeds that were planted and who planted them in these hip hop streets.
Absolutely. So yeah, you get a track from which is not a bad track. It sounds literally like they just swallowed NWA and Ice Cube, and because it's that track Bad Boys samples Genius of Love.
Yeah.
Which is always a dope sample. I mean, if you put that on a joint, it's going to be dope. And yeah, it just sounds like they swallowed Ice Cube and an NWA joint and just was like, we're going to do that as a track. So it's a very interesting, not a bad track. I actually was surprised. I was like, oh, and what's funny, it unlocked a memory for me. I owned the Almighty RSO's album when it finally came out. So that was also an interesting thing. Our Almighty RSO appears here in 93. We didn't get the record from them until like 96. Like it was
Wow.
way all so many of these groups, we eventually got a record. We didn't get it through Flavor Unit and we didn't get it for years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this brings us to the one big kaboom of this album. And Sir Daniel, it's on the back of your record. The group that we know as Zhané, their name was spelled totally differently on this compilation.
So if you're a Zhané fan, and you have their album, their name is spelled Zhane, and it's a combination of their names, Jean and Renee, right?
Yep.
And I think that's why it's spelled this way on this Flavor Unit album. Y'all can't see it, but I'm holding it up.
Yeah, you can see it.
It's spelled Jhane. And I am so curious as to know who brought in the Z.
Yeah.
Because Jean's name is spelled with a J. And Renee, of course, is Renee. So that's how you got Zhané. But that's an interesting story. I would love if, my lips to God's ears, we get a chance to talk to either Jean or Renee or together.
Yeah.
That would be awesome for Q Points. But bona fide hits.
Bang!
I mean, this is the album.
The last song on the album, like an afterthought.
Song.
The only R&B track. It's the last song on the album. I always felt like, I remember when I got to the end of the record and was like, what's this? And I was in love with that song.
Absolutely. And it produced by KG.
Of course.
Of Naughty by Nature fame, which unlocks a whole new career for him because he's known as the producer DJ for Naughty by Nature, but now this is like the very first inkling of KG, the R&B producer who produces acts like Next and gives you hits like Butter Love and what's the huge hit for Next?
Not White. Well, I think he did Wifey too, but no, the other Too Close.
Wifey and Too Close, another enormous, gigantic hit of an R&B song. Like KG is on to something. KG like literally wrote the book on creating R&B like barbecue cookout songs. These songs are legendary and iconic and don't ever die. They will never die. And it's so, to J. Ray and I's point, it's just like this song, it seems like the afterthought on the album, and it's the very last cut on the album, but it is the hugest hit. And I think that's what makes this particular compilation such a unique time capsule, like you put it, J. Ray, of a compilation album. I don't know, like Queen Latifah and Shakim really, they were on one when they put this together. Like, and when they were signing people to be on this team, I don't know, it's just weird how it all came together. Like, it's one of those things that you look back on and just like, wow, this is, and there's a sticker on the album that says fat beats and dope rhymes from the most lyrical family around, the Flavor Unit. 15 flavorful, and that's spelled with PH.
Of course.
Flavorful, funky tracks, including Roll with the Flavor. And the sticker is not even mentioning Zhané.
So check it. Okay, it's all coming together. You notice how it says 15. I bet you KG was like, throw this Zhané joint on there. Because they obviously had been working, because there's 16 tracks, including the Zhané.
16.
Isn't there 16? Is there 16?
So there's 15 on the vinyl.
15 on the vinyl. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think you're right. 5, 6. So, no, you're right. There's 15. Yeah. Damn it. Yeah! Okay, no, it's fine. I don't have
conspiracy theory.
There's no conspiracy theory here, but I do think that because even when you look at that cover, Sir Daniel,
Mm-hmm.
They are on the cover, but they make them look like rappers. They're kind of at the top. You see Gene and Renee at the top, but they look
Yeah.
like MCs. I'm like, I don't get it.
This is a
And
dope cover too. Now that you bring it up, I
dope
really
cover.
love this. Yeah, the way it's
Yeah,
all the artists are like framing the whole album, and you've
yeah.
got, of course, Queen Latifah and Shakim. And can we talk about Queen Latifah and Shakim's relationship? Like, they are the quintessential. If you want to look up what loyalty can look like in the music business, because in entertainment business, period, Queen Latifah and Shakim Compere definitely are the poster children for loyalty. Like, I have never,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's been over 30 years, probably more than that, since they've known each other and since they've worked together. And you can clearly tell that Latifah, it's almost a marriage.
Yep.
Latifah clearly loves and trusts this man, and he loves and trusts her. They protect each other. They've protected each other. They've been through thick and thin with the death of
Mm-hmm.
Latifah's her whole
Whole
family,
family,
basically.
her brother
Her
and her mother,
her brother,
father.
is her father still with us? I think her father.
Her father may have
I'm
passed
not
away.
sure.
Oof, I'm not certain. I'm gonna look.
So he's definitely her family, and so that the fact that they've been able to, and there's Flavor Unit Films. What was that movie? The Cookout.
The cookout.
They
Mm-hmm.
delved into producing movies. So yeah, we got to give a shout out to Queen Latifah, and we talk about Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, L.A. and Babyface. Other couples like that. We got to give it up to Latifah and Shakim.
Yeah, like that. And just looking at the way Latifah's career has gone and knowing that Shakim has been there every step of the way, that's like, yeah, like you
Mm-hmm.
really get a chance to see what's possible. And
Absolutely.
they gave this record label a shot. It didn't go because what ended up happening, um, of course, Latifah released Black Rain on Motown. We are going to talk about Black Rain later in the year,
Mm-hmm.
y'all. So stay tuned for that. Um, Zhané signed to Motown too.
I think
Um,
everybody went over there. Yeah.
yeah, so I know that they had the Epic distribution for this. I'm sure it was like, this ain't do what we thought it was gonna do. So let's go ahead and try some other things. What I love too is that they kept going. I mean, you know, the artists that we know about, we know about. The ones that we don't know about, we don't know about.
Yeah.
Freddie Fox became Bumpy Knuckles. We'll never forget you, bruh. He's still out here rhyming.
Mm-hmm. For
And
sure.
yeah, so I think this record is an interesting time capsule. And check it out if y'all haven't checked it out.
Is it on
Um,
streaming
it
platforms?
is not on streaming platforms.
Mm.
You have to check it out on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the only place that you can listen because I actually called my brother because I had this compilation and I was like, "Do you have my that old flavor unit?" He was like, "No." I probably took it with me when I moved at some point, but because I was going to ask him for it, so then I was going to have the copy that I bought
Mm-hmm.
back then here. That is going to be interesting. I probably need to do a show from my brother's CD wall because so many of my old CDs from this era are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. That would be a dope segment. Do that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But
Wow.
this is a fun time. Fun time.
1993. February. This is February of 1993.
Yep.
Hmm. I was
30
about to.
years, bruh.
Wow, I've been out of high school for 30 years because that's when I graduated high school was in 1993.
Wow.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I was in um what year was this? So I would have been in sophomore. So yeah, I would have been a sophomore in high
Mm-hmm.
school during this, and this would have been my first year of public high school. My favorite high school experience, and yeah, just a weird ass moment in time where people was
Mm.
just walking around in Carhartt couture.
In maintenance man chic. Yeah. Imagine being here in the South, because by that time I was here in Georgia. And your influences are my influences, of course, were New York, but then you also have the West Coast with their major influence on everything. And here I am, we're down here in this. Imagine the summertime, and I know they were making fun of us. You could you could spot a New Yorker out of the bunch. We would be wearing oversized T-shirts, some jorts, some denim jean shorts,
Right.
a pair of Timberlands, and then you have the nerve to put on a vest over that T-shirt in the hot summertime. What were we thinking?
Sir
What were
Daniel,
we thinking?
y'all, why were our clothes? I was looking at the videos like, oh my God, these clothes are so big. It's so much fabric, y'all. It was
So
so
much
much.
wasted fabric. How were people running in jeans that big and Timberlands? So here's a funny story. The last time I wore I wore a pair of Timberlands was, let's see, I was attending Clark Atlanta University. My car had died on me, so I was taking the train and the bus to get to school.
Yeah.
And I had gotten off at the West End train station
Yep.
in these
My old stomping
Timberlands,
grounds.
our old stomping grounds, and trooping around in these big ass Timberland boots, and I thought I had them laced up. I don't know what it is about me and boots, but there was a moment where I stepped off the curb in the middle of the West End, like right there on Fair Street and I forget and Ralph David Abernathy, where the brothers are selling the bean pies.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get down to campus in a hurry. I step off of that curb. My foot went one way and the boot went the other way. And next thing you know, I'm spilling in the middle of the streets like in a movie. And it's the most embarrassing thing. My ankle is on fire. And I promise you, from that day forward, I vowed never to wear another pair of boots, period. Whether it was Timberland or whoever. I just cannot function in boots. And hats off to everybody that used to be able to do that and pull off that look, but your boy can't do it and won't do it anymore.
Yeah, I haven't owned a pair of Timberlands in Lord knows how long. It may be going on. What year is this? 2023. It might be
Mm-hmm.
20 years.
Yeah.
um, I did own a pair of really hot Timberland sneakers that I really
Okay.
liked. Destroyed them at House in the Park. If I ever find
Uh,
them again, I will definitely get another pair. But yeah, the fashion, the music, the machetes, the 9 millimeters. It was a lot going on, y'all. But Roll with the Flavor was a moment in time, and it gave us Zhané. And we definitely have to talk about that record, which eventually showed up in 1994 and became a huge hit.
Monster hits.
And is one of those. It was one of those albums that defined the 1990s. If we think of Brandy's first album, we think of Zhané's debut album. These were like records you still play today.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down. Wow. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this trip down memory lane. You know, we hope that you weren't scared on this journey through the
It's a lot of
through the hood
machetes.
and our hoodlum antics with machetes and dressed like maintenance men. But listen, J Ray, let the people know how they can keep up with us just one more time, so
Oh my
that
god.
so that they can catch up with us for however comma and for the next
Yes.
episode and for the next episode after that, because we really got it going on for. We're putting it on for hip hop's 50th anniversary as well as 1988.
Absolutely. So, you listen, y'all, make sure that you stay in touch with Q Points. You definitely want to go ahead and visit our website, qpoints.com, and subscribe. If you are not a Q Points Insider member, you should be. Because one, you are getting some additional content, but you are also helping us to keep the Q Points lights on. So you can subscribe by becoming a member on our website. I'm going to put a link in the chat, but you can just go to qpoints.com, click on subscribe. If you are like, listen, I really like these dudes. I just want to give them a little bump, leave them a little something. You can give us a tip, and you can also buy stuff like this stop tweeting, start rapping mug. Boom,
Mm-hmm.
boom, boom. You can buy that over in our Q Points store. You can't buy Q Up the Vote, but next year when it's
No
time to
more.
vote, Q Up the Vote is coming back. So get ready for Q Up the Vote, which DJ Sir Daniel is rocking tonight. But yes, keep up with us on our website and make sure that you go on ahead and visit the Q Points magazine, and you can subscribe so you can get our newsletter and get the latest and greatest updates from Q Points.
And there you have it, folks. J Ray, my brother. Let's do this. What do I always say every week? In this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
My name is J Ray, y'all. Peace.
This has been Q Points dropping the needle on Black music history. We'll see you on the next go round. Peace.